May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Please be seated. This past week, I just got to share with you, we delivered our third harvest from the community garden out on the corner of Dearborn and Spring Street, plus the carts that were pulled down close to the path this morning. We take it to MLK Food Pantry, and there were 29 bags of Swiss chard, tender lettuce, arugula, eggplant, and enough herbs to keep Chef Emily going in the kitchen for the dinners and Newport dinner parties for the next week. There was mint and rosemary and thyme and chives and curly and flat leaf parsley and basil. The garden is riotously abundant, and the raised bed closest to Spring Street is flat out of control. A crookneck squash vine is making a break for the summer traffic, offering drive-by fruit to anybody who happens by. I was thinking about how our crazy garden grows, and you might have thought about that as you were walking in this morning with all of the activity going on at Emmanuel with the rehearsals and everything else, even this morning at church time. We were at the Newport Classical Percussion Concert as a part of the music festival on Thursday night at the Breakers. And see, the festival itself reminds me of our garden. So many people coming from so many places, some even from the West Coast across the country for a week or so, some coming every night from off island, some going across town, but they're coming to be nourished and surprised by unexpected insights and great beauty. 30 concerts over 17 days, sunrise to sunset, Norman Bird Sanctuary, the Redwood, the Breakers, the Elms, Rosecliff, Newport Art Museum. And then yesterday, right here at Emmanuel, right here in this place. This is all part of our ongoing collaboration with Newport Classical and keeps opening new life and possibilities for both of us. So Thursday night's piece was called Goddess Insect. Goddess like a Greek goddess, insect, yes, you heard it. It's a contemporary 22-minute concerto for violin and percussion. It's improbable, I know, and this piece was its Rhode Island debut. It was co-commissioned by Newport Classical that is bringing forth with its support new works by new artists all the time. And it was built around the psychological idea, Phil will know this, of the God bug syndrome. It's that inflated sense of self-importance that some people have and we call like a God complex that might mask deeper feelings, hidden feelings, maybe even from the person herself, about not measuring up. And so I have to say that there are times when I feel like a bug in God's larger garden plan, and I just hope that I am as useful in my own, buzzy, fluttering way, to the garden to keep it pollinating. So the composer uses percussion ensemble for that rustling, chirping sound of insects, and the violin then soars high above all the rhythms. I was with vestry member Lori Bosman at the intermission, and she said she found it just captivating, all of the rattling seeds and the brushed sheets of brass and the shaking instrument made of goat hoof trimmings, yes, goat hoof trimmings, tuned 2x4s from the hardware store, cut and tuned to specific tones, and zinc pipes that were struck with mallets, a shaken plastic takeaway container half full of BBs, metal discs, this was one of my favorites, that were played with a bow. It was a very heavy bow made of darker carbon fibers that played the metal discs that then were dipped into water to bend the sound. And all of that woven around the violin's melody. So listening with her eyes closed, as the violinist had suggested to all of us, Lori said she found herself thinking about seeds. And we hadn't even talked about the lectionary for this morning. We hadn't even talked about it being the sower's parable. But she said, I found myself imagining about seeds, how they grow, where they land, what they germinate when they've landed, and what happens next. And here we are on the seventh Sunday after the Pentecost. We've got Matthew. Oops, what did I do? Am I still on? Okay. We've got Matthew's version of the parable of the sower. I don't know how you hear it. I tend to line up with the sower, typically, because that's the human being in the parable. And I hear it often, I think we all kind of hear it, or many of us do, as a simple, folksy agricultural lesson. Good advice for the gardener or the disciple about preparing soil and pulling weeds. But the word parable itself, from the Greek, means to kind of overturn, shake up, cast aside. Parables are stories that Jesus told on purpose to upset what we think we already know. Matthew tells us plainly that Jesus in his stories put all of Jerusalem in a turmoil. So he'd done what he set out to do. A parable isn't supposed to comfort our assumptions. It's supposed to overturn them. So here's my overturning question this morning. Where do you stand in this parable? Most of us, I think, would line ourselves up with the sower as the one scattering seed, hearing this as gardening advice about our own effort, our own good soil, our own diligent weeding. But what if we tried on another place in the story instead? What if we're the birds? What if we're the birds surviving only what we managed to snatch up on the way? What if we're the weeds? Because a weed, after all, is just a thriving plant that's growing somewhere the gardener didn't intend. Ask that squash vine headed out towards Spring Street, producing fruit for everybody who walks by, whether it thinks it's a weed. What if we're the seed itself? How do seeds behave? What do they do when they're scattered, and what happens around them when they sprout? Does anyone get nourished? Is anyone encouraged by the blossoms? Do the plants that grow create a resting place where bees and butterflies can feed before carrying pollen to a new place? Do the roots hold the earth after a hard rain? Do the fallen leaves feed the ground for whatever grows next? And what if we're the soil? Do we offer a fertile, secure, accommodating foundation where life can take root and actually flourish? Even life we didn't plan for, didn't expect, and maybe didn't originally want growing right there? I think about that question every time I think about our rector's discretionary fund. Friday, Jerry and I walked over with Bowie, went to Bank Newport, and wired the first Sunday of the month collection from last week, the first Sunday of the month of July. Almost $2,000. We were so excited. I wired it to the Diocese of Western Tanganyika Mothers Union sewing program. That's 20 sewing machines, guys. And this more than doubles what Emmanuel has helped that program purchase over the past few years. And the Mothers Union's next plan is to reach more than 600 widows in the diocese. These machines are sturdy treadle machines that can be easily repaired for decades. And when the students graduate, they take the machines with them to start small businesses, making clothing in their own communities. And the Mothers Union executive director, who is a friend, Agrippina Mtengu is her name, she wrote recently that this work isn't only about sewing. It's about sustainability, women's empowerment, and economic independence as real protection against exploitation. A sewing machine plus training is a path to dignity, income, and freedom. So that's some good soil, right? The Mothers Union work has caused me to reflect on how we use the Rector's Discretionary Fund here at Emmanuel. And for years, we've used it to provide one-time small grants for urgent needs, mostly to help people who are behind in their rent or behind in their utilities payments. But one-time relief, it doesn't grow roots and have lasting stability, and we've been wondering how we can do better. So we're going to try something that's more relational. Rather than simply sending a check to a landlord or to Rhode Island Energy and then stepping back, we'll walk alongside people, connecting them with trusted partners in the community like Rhode Island Legal Services to help them build a budget, maybe stop an eviction notice, Rhode Island Outreach, the Women's Resource Center, No Wrong Doors Laundry Love Program, and other nonprofits, while offering what Emmanuel does best: welcome, practical support, and sustained presence. Our focus going forward is going to be a back-to-work ministry, more like DWT Mothers Union's own path to independence, with short-term food support, resume and application help, interview preparation, and appropriate clothing for interviews. When financial assistance is part of the picture, it will fit inside that larger relationship, coordinated with other providers so help doesn't fall through the cracks. And we're not trying to duplicate work that other nonprofits are already doing so well and better than we could. We want to be good soil to support strong roots when that's where we stand in the parable. And collaboration with other nonprofits invites all kinds of contribution: practical help, a listening ear, an open door, and the prayers of this whole community. It lets us walk with our neighbors not only in moments of crisis, but all along the way to a path toward steadier ground. So in this parable, are you the sower? Or one of the birds that eats the seeds that are scattered on the path? Are you a weed pushing the envelope to live out your own truth? Are you a seed becoming something new in an unexpected place? Or are you fertile, stable soil? Maybe the overturning truth of this parable is that at different moments, we're every single one of these things. Scattering and snatching and stubbornly surviving and sprouting where we're not expected. And if we're doing this right, becoming the kind of ground where someone else's seed can take root. Amen.